Welcome to Wickerson Studios. Michael Wickerson here. This is basically what I'm going to do for a while this year, not only on my um, webinars that I'm giving and the classes I'm teaching internationally and my own classes I'm preparing for. I want my students to learn how to write code, and I want them to learn how to write code from and debug it from their understanding of coding from using something like GPT-4 or Copilot or something like that. I am using the GH hops component in Grasshopper, which I'm very familiar with, and I know other people are. So in the math component, you can get a GH Python node and bring it in here. You will know how to input your inputs. If X is there, you right click on it, you basically type its type int, and it'll be a float, an integer probably to begin with, fairly simple. Single access is fine. I've made quite a few, and this is my final iteration of this open pit mine. It doesn't work under every parameter because I've got noise in there and things start to break, and I've had to set things. But to get a model that's pretty decent like this, if I bake this, so if I wanted to bake the layers here, the curves, if I wanted to bake the surfaces, there they are. And if I wanted to bake the kind of the rise and run of the steps of the open pit mine, that's basically all I'm doing. Bake, and we'll join this one 3. And oh, those are the curves. And these are the flat areas. So we'll do a little bake here, and we'll do those as here. There you go. You got purple. You've got, oh my goodness, those are pretty wild bakes, but that's because those are, and I could undulate those in the Z direction if I didn't want to be flat. So this open pit mine I've kind of created here, it's kind of nice. And I'm thinking of like, how do we get the trucks in and out of it? So where do we start building the ramps coming up from them? So I'll show you how this script became in about 45 minutes, 100 lines of code. How do I write that? Now, I would not go into the GH Python node and know to put all these inputs and think about this and start writing my pseudo scripts and come through calculating the smallest radius, ensuring the radius. There's a lot of really nice if and for statements in here, and outputting mines, surfaces, and flats associated with it. I probably would not be able to wrap my head around. I could, but then I'd have to do a bunch of tests. It's much easier to use something like ChatGPT. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. So this is a taste of what's happening between the script lines. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. We'll come back to here. So although the script is being generated in ChatGPT 4, I am rewriting it in many iterations here and starting with my first iteration. So this is actually GPT is my college summer school 2023. Learn Grasshopper for Rhino 3D from Wickerson Studios. Urban engineering is what I'm looking at. Infrastructure and technology and modern landscape. And I'm going to conveniently make all these downloadable for $9.99 because it's a work in process. As you know me, all of my repos are free. But when they're work in process, for those early birds that want to get a hold of it and develop with me, they can always jump on and purchase them. But everything is, all repos are always up for like $10 if you want to stay up to date. Anyway, open pit mine, what would I do? And I get a bug initially. But how did I get a bug? This is not the script that's input here. The script that's input here doesn't work, and it throws a bug. So when I hit test, I get this bug. What's nice is I've streamed this output. So as I stream that output, I've put it to a destination that I can open. So I will just show you quickly that I've streamed it to a debugging text that when I open in Notepad, boom, I get that debug text over here. Of course, this one's not the same because actually it is the same because it's the one I just streamed. Then I can cut and paste this right here, copy it, close this, and then go back into right here, and you'll see that's exactly what happened. So write a Python script. This is really where it begins, and I know we're a few minutes in, but write a Python script for GH Python node using Rhino Common API and Rhino Script Syntax API into Grasshopper for Rhino 3D. That creates a model of a or an, and then ... Open pit mine. That's it. it starts telling you exactly what you need. It shows you your inputs. It tells you what they are. Radius are going to be floats. Depth will be floats. Numbers will be integers. And you'll see there's this weird position at mind center with this coerced 3D point. And I know there's going to be a problem with that, so I left it. And it generated this text saying there's an issue over here in the red. Because I have this running, like I said, to a debug text in a notebook, I can cut and paste that debug text in here and run my second script. And it's going to try and talk to me in English, but I don't really need to speak to it as a human. I can speak to it as a computer. And we're going to go right through and generate another text that actually works. So as we jump in here, you can see that I can grab here that I actually started to get something. And I had to change the positive and the negatives, and it's actually parametric, the beginning of my mind. How exciting. And how many steps do I want? So pretty simple. And the point, you could do list points. You can make a whole bunch of these points and mines coming off. You can complicate your model incredibly quickly. But that's it. That's enough to get us started. But what did I say at the end of that? I said, this is good, but can you offset the steps to create steps? It generates another code. I leave that one. And I go down here and I see what it tried to do. And apparently it had an error in its script. So I cut and paste this. All I did was say copy text and put it in here. And there's red. There's a warning. It goes to my debugging text, which will open in Notepad and send the exact same problems that are here over here in my debugging code over to this. I can copy that and I can put it in here at the end and say, okay, unpack the pairs and I loft them together. So I must have put that in there as the problem. This is good, but can you create the steps? It did an okay job. And I said, unpack the pairs because we're dealing with tuples and I'm following that. Nothing's being generated here, but it did it. And it had a problem over here in the red, which is not here. It failed to offset a curve at step 0. But what was the problem here? This is the GUI to geometry problem that you run into whenever you use things that Grasshopper doesn't recognize. And Grasshopper doesn't recognize tuples. So I get back in here, I put down the exception. I think we're down here by now. Failed to offset at step 0 because that was up here. Failed to offset at step 0, and I just put that in there as a note. But then as I process a few more scripts, there's the output from data conversion failed from GUI to geometry. And because that bug is down here and it doesn't come out as a bug in an output, which is so powerful about the GH node, then I can't use my technique of going to debugging text and having it open in Notepad. I have to just retype it. So that's the slowdown. But I've sped up this process to half an hour, and you're producing a pretty good model that you understand the workings of it writing within the GH Python. Let's keep in mind that this is actually being cut and paste over here, and this is writing now at 62 lines and nearly operating except for that tuple geometry. So by the time I get through that, I was excellent, but can you loft the curves to output a surface as S because I want another output? Still had a little problem here, so I just jotted this down as a scribble note or in a panel. Output the data conversion failed from GUI to geometry because that may go away and I might not read that little warning sign there. So we're about halfway through and I'm about 15 minutes into playing with this stuff. If you have GPT-4, you have Copilot, and you have Grasshopper and you're okay with Python and you want to use the GH Python node, you can generate all of this stuff incredibly fast and end up with your final models over here, which I botched up and played around a little bit and modified. I'll have to make that one work. But once I got into noise, it got a little more complicated. So let's see what we have here. We have the offsets. It seems to be working. And I said, that's great. And it actually worked well for me to loft. I got this really subtle kind of mine. That's still circles, so it's not very geometric or organic, but it's there. It's working. You can see that it's actually slowly lofting through, but I don't want to have to do anything in Grasshopper. I don't want to sit here and have to add a loft afterwards. So I go back in and I say, oh, will you do that loft for me? It tried, but it had this runtime error. Once again, I got that runtime error from here. I'm not sitting looking at this. You cannot cut and paste a panel node that's coming out of output. You have to go to the debugging text. You have to stream this. A lot of people don't know this. Stream to a destination, stream the contents, and then when you go to that text, you can open in whatever editor you have, and that was the old one, so I have to stream this one. Let's stream this one, stream contents, and then when I open my debugging text, hopefully it'll be updated, and it's not, and I'm not sure why it's not. Let me see if I can stream the contents, stream the destination to there, save, yes, and I should be able to stream. That's funny, that gave me a little bit of trouble there. Might be an older one coming up. There it is. So stream the new contents. Now I can take the bug without having to retype anything, copy it, and I can put it right back in to here. And it will try and solve for that. And if it did, then I have another script coming over here and I see what happened. Did it loft? Well, it went in and produced these surfaces, but you'll see what it did. It did not, it produced the verticals, so I can adjust that parametrically and change my little strip mine, or not strip mine, my little open pit mine. But I'm not getting those lofts on there. I'm getting the curves and I'm getting here. So that's basically what I had to say in English. I was like, good, but don't forget to loft the surfaces and output them as F because I wanted to keep them separate. So I output it as F. I've got these, and you'll see there's yet another problem. And what it did, and I played around here a little bit, I was like, okay, do this to solve it. I didn't catch the error that it was making these solid right through. So I started to get in another script. I showed it which one I wanted to talk to. And then I came back and said, no, go back to that original script and just loft from that beginning to that end. And of course, this is the one that did it. And there you go. You got a nice little strip mine and you're done. It's parametric. You can jump in here. You can change the offsets if you want. You can change the count of steps. You can change the height. You can change this. And of course, it's not a range. They're all kind of stepping down at the same level. But you're seeing yourself produce a pretty cool model in very short period of time. This is absolutely what I think everybody needs to be doing when it comes to someone who wants to code or script. I picked up a simple book. I don't even know what it's on. It's I figured I had to do something sensible, engineering and architecture based. So infrastructure and technology in the modern landscape. And of course, one of the first little sketch drawings I saw in the corner was this pit excavation. And I was like, well, I'll just type that in and see if it understands how to write that. And this is ingenious. I think you should be telling all your friends about this. I give all my work away for free. It's all on GitHub for free, but my work's in process. I do try and generate a couple of bucks. But right now, I think this is really the future. If you want to go deeper into libraries with Copilot, you want to go into NumPy and Pandas and machine learning, then go right ahead. But you're going to have trouble over in Visual Studio Code with Copilot trying to get the RhinoCom in the work. I like this. I really like this script. And I love that you can use Rhino geometries. You can use Rhino script syntax. It will generate its code. I'm trying to produce 100 lines of scripts with outputs, 100 lines of script models in the JHPython node and show people how easy that is. Now, trying to keep people interested in this is what the trick is, and I can see people bouncing on and offline. So as I went back in here, I tried to do another one, but what it did was I was like, I need some noise in here. I need you to step these curves and undulate it and provide these noise and these point counts to how I make these jiggle and wiggle and work. And I got it kind of to work in this kind of script sideline section of what worked with curves and a point count. You'll see your script slowing down to 9 milliseconds. But I was having trouble with that script here because I wasn't happy with that. I wanted it to wrap all the way around and I wanted it to go into, I'm just talking to it. I'm just sending its bugs to itself and make the curves go all the way around the form and close it up like the circles did. And I think it did it. It did not import math defined, so I had to say that for another version. And it just keeps rewriting it. As long as it's 100 lines of script, it writes very quickly. If it doesn't write very quickly, you'll probably have to just interject into your code. You really only need that final script. And there it is. And that final script has a few bugs in it there, jiggy and jaggy. Let's see if we can solve those a little bit. There we go. Not everything works because of the noise. I found putting it on even numbers seems to work a little better. And you've got a nice little jiggly little strip mine that has something that I was saying make it a little more it's talking to me in the end, but what did I say in my final approach before the math? I said make the curves all the way around close up like the circles did, but before that I think I gave it some adjectives and some human talk, which you figured out. Yeah, perfect. Now can you change the circles into irregular shapes that undulate in and out slightly so they look more geological and natural? And that's it. So the more you kind of know about studying in school, the more you're going to have fun with this type of model. And then when you're done, you've got a pretty complex little model that runs off of 6-7 parameters and the points to start from. And you can also go in here and grab the elements and the sections of each one. And you don't have to do anything because the thing's written into one nice clean script in Python Ta-da. And so I'm going to keep these to 100 lines, let people finish up. They'll know their parameters to set. And that's it. That's Wickerson Studios. That's going to be GPT-4 is my college for the summer of 2023. And let's just put that in there so we don't intimidate people. There he is. GPT-4 is my college. That's it. Very excited about that. I'm going to take off my video. I'm going to post this one.